So that's my clock. It is 10 a.m. So I'll call the meeting to order. If you are watching online or wish to make a comment, would you please use the raise the hand function on Zoom so that we can put you on camera and state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you. Number two, motion approving the minutes of the July 7th, 2025 meeting of the Midland Development Corporation.
So moved.
So is there any public comment? Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Have a motion to second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item three, motion approving the minutes for the July 8th, 2025 meeting of the Midland Development Corporation. I'll call for any public comment. Hearing none. Is there any discussion from the board? Then I'll call for a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
You have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This time presentation from Motran Alliance on the infrastructure projects and initiatives in Midland and the Permian Basin. James Beecham.
Chairman, we thank you for the opportunity and glad to be with you here today. So if you didn't get any public comments earlier, we'll give you a bunch of comments now. How about that? We have a presentation for you today. We're just going to walk through a couple little things for you that I think are important. But as we look at this, I mean, one of the things I do want you to think about, kind of the two main areas that we have tried to focus on over the last couple of years are safety and efficiency. And those are particularly important to you from an economic development perspective. Well, we think about safety primarily from a perspective of people's lives, which is important. That's one of the things we should be thinking about. It's also important to you from an economic standpoint. Every fatal crash that occurs out here has roughly about a $3 million price tag attached to it from a Capsco crash cost rating. Now, I like to think my life is worth a whole lot more than $3 million. And I imagine some of you like to think that. I think we'd be okay at that, but from the federal government perspective, that's how we rate about $3 million. If you look at those fatalities that occur, along with the other crashes, the injuries and things of that nature, just here in that 12 county region of the Odessa district, that's about $3 billion a year in economic costs. And that's particularly important. I mean, when you think about it on a little bit more proximity level, let's say you've got somebody out there that works in our arena and they lose their life, and that's $100,000 a year. Yeah, okay. You multiply that over X number of years, but also think about it from the perspective of that family. I mean, you had a middle-class family that's now below the poverty line. And so they do have a tremendous cost, and that's really important from your perspective of economic development and looking at the economics of our area. Tremendous cost there. The other part is efficiency. When we can reduce travel times, we reduce costs. And that's very, very important as Sarah looks at economic prospects throughout our area. And it's also important, again, on that personal level. If we looked at the last 5 years that we have commuting times available for work, what I can tell you is Midland's been pretty constant. We've been okay. We haven't seen an increase in commuting time. But in Odessa, it's gone up by nearly 4 minutes. Keep that on the conservative side, just say 3, so I can do math in my head. That's 15 minutes a week. Think about that. That's an hour a month. That's 12 hours a year. Goes up another 4 minutes, 3 minutes over there. It adds up. It's substantial time. And so as we look at these projects, one of the things that we're trying to do again, improve safety and improve that efficiency. We'll go to the next slide. And kind of the great story that we have to tell for you today is this year in December, we'll have the letting of the Todd Road overpass here in Midland. You can kind of see that there in the distance. At the time, we didn't have a picture of that, but you can see it from there, so that's good now. And that's an important step forward for us because that's the last chink in the chain, so to speak, of completing Loop 250. We'll move to the next slide. You can kind of see it there in a little more detail. Probably about a 2-year completion time on that project from the time it lets in December. So looking at that probably somewhere in early to mid 2027 potentially, but maybe even out that long. This project, we were successful in moving it forward for earlier letting, so that's the good part of it. There was a downside to this project, that's that we really hope to get additional funding attached to this project. All the funding that goes into building this overpass is Category 2 program funds here locally. So it's all local dollars, and as we've worked on this project with you over the years, 2 things that we've tried to do is one, projects up faster than slower, but also bring substantial additional investment into our area by above the line for additional dollars above and beyond what we were normally programmed to get. In this case, we didn't get that. And I think a little bit of that is the process on this project, but again, it is moving forward. It will complete Loop 250. And while I know we've kind of all heard about that already, I want to talk to you a little bit about the significance of that. Loop 250 started in earnest in 1973. And my math is always a little shaky when I do it in my head, but I believe that is 52 years to now. So you add another 2 years to complete this project, and you're looking at roughly 54 years to complete Loop 250. Long overdue. But where I will tell you this is important, if we took those projects prior to your investment, the things that we've done in this leveraging program, we would still be 15 to 20 years out. They would look 250. And that's probably the single greatest success story. There have been additional dollars come in. That's good. And we can talk about that if you want to, but literally cutting 15 to 20 years off a significant piece of infrastructure, I think is the single greatest attribute of the program you've undertaken here. We'll move on to the next slide. We first submitted that program to you to accelerate our infrastructure and our local leveraging program with both you and ODC in July 2016. So it's been roughly a little over 9 years. Sarah, you were here, I was here. And you can kind of see some of the projects that we had there, and both communities really focused on Loop 250 and Loop 338. We had some ancillary like our South Loop in Midland we were working on with the county, as well as the extension of Yukon back over from Odessa to the airport, and some projects that I've still got out on the Craddock reliever route that at some point, if you are willing to have the conversation, we'd like to talk about maybe leveraging a couple of those as well, like Craddock reliever route as we look at I-27. All told, you put in 15 million at that time, ODC put in 15 million. Theirs was a little bit more backdated on the loop because they've got a little different set of problems, but your loop projects were ready to go. And again, accelerate projects, bring additional dollars to the table. I think we've been very successful in that run. Those have also helped us as we've talked to other people about developments. And a really good example of that is Yukon coming back over from Odessa to the airport. We did have a federal earmark that leveraged that overpass out there, but that helped us work with both Midland County, the affected landowners out there who were willing to donate that property, and a local developer who paid for the north end of that road. So again, it's not just the additional state dollars in this. When you're investing, when you're being aggressive about infrastructure, other people get more aggressive too. And that's another win in that. We'll go to the next slide. Their problem was a little different. They had built interior lanes as opposed to exterior. We had built access roads over here. So on Loop 250, when we went through with this project, it went really fast. You didn't have to acquire right away. You didn't have to deal with utility adjustments. That's something we're having to do in Odessa. You can see kind of their deal down there will be about a 400-foot right of way. It's gonna look a lot like 191 over there. But much in the case of Loop 250 with Loop 338, it's gonna provide a lot of additional room to develop retail, commercial, otherwise. Where what's happening in Odessa is important to you though, from an MDC perspective. This really focuses on segment one, which is the north. That's the northeast portion of the loop there, and talking about Yukon coming out. We'll go to that next slide. You can see that kind of stretching back over. There are roughly around 12,000 people who live in Ector County, but work in Midland County every day. So what we're really doing is, again, making it more efficient and quicker for those folks who are working in Ector County to get to Midland County, and saving them commute time and making that process easier. Next slide. You know, we talked a little bit about your leveraging program and why that was important. And I know y'all don't want the ABCs, project development, all that, but earlier this year, we did this for a group of legislators on the Transportation Committee. And I call it the brick wall of project development. You're dealing with TxDOT, a brick wall really is a great analogy. First, you have to identify a project. That's not hard. We went over there, John James. I said, John James, give me a pothole you want fixed. He can come up with something. Everybody's got a road. Not a problem. Putting it on a plan. There's all kinds of plans. There's long-term plans, short-term plans, aviation, rail plans, road plans, bicycle plans, any kind of plan in the world. You can get your project on plan. But getting it to that stage where it's funded is really, really difficult. And so I want you to understand why your leveraging program was so important and impactful. When you put money on those individual projects, even though it was a sliver of the overall cost, your dollars are termed as category 3, local dollars. Engineers, straight lines, hope there's no engineers in the room. Once they start down a path, it is hard for them to pull back. So really what you were doing with a very clever way caused them to put something on their to-do list that now they're going to end up carrying through with it. It may take the full 10 years. It may end up taking 12 years, depending on the difficulty of the project. But you get the point. You're forcing them to go down a path, and eventually they will get there. That's why that program was so effective. It literally forced them to rework priorities out here. And that's really an important thing to getting Loop 250 done. It's going to be important, Loop 338 and a lot of other projects out here. They have projects they want to do, like the interstate. No problem. Can't hold us back. But there are a lot of other things that are out here important for Midland and Odessa that we need to be doing as well. And you've allowed us through this investment, through this program, to do just that. So thank you. Next slide. In this most recent UTP, two of the important things that we've added were the Pecos reliever route and part of 302. Going back over that map is a little bit on 302 is a little bit deceptive. It's really just going from project in there to the Winkler County line. So it's the first about 12 miles there, but continue to 4-lane divide that out. And then of course the new reliever route for Pecos. Again, Midland Development Corporation, why are you talking about this? Well, because those are important. We have a lot of people that drive on those roads every day. And the Pecos reliever route saves a person about 20 minutes going up and 20 minutes going down. That's 40 minutes extra added to their day. So a lot less driver fatigue and a lot less people getting stuck over there in a commercial vehicle. Same thing with 302, you're improving travel times. Next slide. So that first map there, where you see part of New Mexico hanging out, was the PSP map for the roads they wanted to do. And God love the PSP, we work with them, but their road projects really revolved around sand companies. There was very little out here. So we added 302 to that. We added the paperless reliever route to that, and then we added 349 coming down out of Midland. Those are all important roads, they actually have higher traffic counts than a lot of those other roads. But one of the things that I think some of the folks from outside of town, I'm not trying to be ugly, but a lot of those companies and a lot of representatives on PSP have been from out of town. Everything out here really revolves around Midland and Odessa. And I'm not saying that to be ethnocentric in some way. Your workforce is all out here. I don't care if it's in the Delaware Basin or this, that, or the other. You got people every day from here that have to travel there to do that. Goods and services, regional basis and logistics, it's all centered out of here. So it's important to keep that in mind as we look at these improvements, that making Midland and Odessa a hub, improving these roads in and out of Midland and Odessa is drastically important, not just for us, but for them to be more efficient and effective. That's one you'll see over here is a little map that we did up, my simplified map, because I like to keep things simple. Looking at I-14 and I-27. So in April of 2023, at that point, we had the designation of I-14. We did not yet have the designation of I-27, but we went ahead and went to TxDOT, sat down with them in Austin and said, look, 349 around the city was always supposed to be 4-lane divided. You dropped the ball on that. 158 is a phase 1 front system. It should have been 4-lane divided. We had to do 4-lane undivided because that's all we could hobble together, and you wouldn't really invest there. 349 going north, same thing. Should have been a 4-lane divided road eventually or initially, but we had to go with this poor bulk down version. We need to fix that. So we came forward with them. They said, okay. I-14 covered 158 and part of I-20 there. That kind of felt like I-27 would be going forward. So we went ahead and went forward with that. Next slide. So the first phase of that, they came back and said, well, what we want to do is in September of this year, we want to start on the reliever route and then that portion of 1788 that goes down to I-20. So we said, okay, that's fine. We get that. We need to do that. But 349, the reliever route, is already to scale. You already have all the right of way you need. You already have all the utility adjustments made. I mean, there's really not a lot to this project. You already have the schematics, the baseline schematics, and you previously had an environmental approval on this project. So that's not going to be difficult. Now there is going to be a little stretch. I can tell by Garrett's look here on 1788 from about 191 down to I-20. It is going to be a little problematic. But overall, this is not a huge project. So what we would like you to do is go ahead and include all the way up to 176 on that 349 corridor. Because that's a very busy, dangerous corridor coming in, a lot of traffic with a lot of crashes out there. Go ahead and at least take up to 176. A lot of that baseline work has also been done. We realize you can't go all the way to Lamesa because they've still got to settle on the Lamesa reliever route up there. So they've agreed to do that. And I think work will begin on that by the end of this month. So it'll run from 176 all the way down to I-20 to build that out. And this will be the engineering development of the new adjusted schematics, the environmental approval, and a little bit of detailed engineering to allow them to start right-of-way acquisition and utility adjustments. And I think this project will move pretty fast because utility adjustments really are not bad along any of this, depending on what happens on 1788. Pretty easy. Most of the cost that they will have on 349 going up to 176 is fencing relocation costs. Next project, there, next slide. The next one is 158 coming out. Previously in the San Angelo district, there's already been a study of 158 through the Glasscock County area up to the Glasscock County line. In fact, some of that they've already acquired right away on back to the day coming out of Sterling City going over towards Glasscock County. We've never done that on 158. That one's going to be a woolly worker, just for a better way to put it. There are tons of utility adjustments out there. You're going to get into issues with locations of wells, pipeline there. That one's going to be a booker. But that one's very, very important because that's probably the most dangerous road we have out here. I think ultimately that will lead to a realignment of 158 along the south loop. To adjust some of that and take some of that into account. Back in the day, we worked with your dad on that. To acquire some additional right of way out there. To make that possible, that would bring that roadway I-14 matching up to Loop 250 on the west side there. And I think that makes a lot of sense, and a lot of those landowners have been very good about saying, yeah, we're willing to help out with that. Along that existing 158 corridor, I just don't know if there's any cost-effective way to get the right of way that you need to build that road out to that standard coming into Midland. That project has been bumped up as well, and I think that will start probably in about June of 2026. So
that route will go north of the existing 158.
it'd be, well, technically, it wouldn't be north. It'd be, what's that, little ways west, that west.
Goes on the south side.
South side of the existing 158 corridor.
So the other thing is that our district engineer, that's been assigned to him for all of that right of way acquisition, and he's working on that actively all the way up to Lavisa actually, which is a huge win for us to be able to have a plan, a more cohesive plan all the way up there, because that's technically a little bit outside of his.
Costly, the Lamesa end isn't costly, the other end going out is in the millions costly. So, that last project of 349, as I understand it, that's coming into Lamesa, that's that additional 12 miles that the mayor just spoke of, that's in the Lubbock district. That should be pretty easy. Really, the only thing you'll have there is some cotton fields. You do have about 2 center pivots, which roughly run about 300,000 on replacement of those. So that won't be huge, but you don't have density lift station. They're just really, they got. Ultimately, the access road won't be immediate, be a 4-lane divided, but you'll have the right of way necessary for the access roads. Now, I know the mayor would like to say, let's get over it all at once. It may take them a little time there. But again, remember what we talked about in the very beginning, safety and efficiency. If you take these 2 roads and you get them as 4-lane divided with that larger right of way footprint, you'll have less accidents, you'll reduce those crash costs. And this will flow better, you'll have better mobility, and you'll reduce travel times. So again, even in the interim, there is a tremendous benefit outside of slapping up the interstate sign, which we would like from a marketing standpoint, it's really good. But there will be improvements along the way that are important to you from an economic development perspective. Next slide. Legislative wrap up, a couple things that were good during the session. One, there were several bills that tried to limit the lengths of trains. And we worked to help kill that bill. That would be a real problem for us out here. I mean, I know if you're ever stuck at the railroad tracks, you think, James, I might like a shorter train. The problem is if you receive anything on the train or your business relying on that rail line, you're going to increase your costs pretty dramatically. The other thing is Midland County is on any given year, 5th or 6th in the state for the number of at-grade rail crossing crashes. And so by having more trains go through there, even at shorter lengths, you have more opportunity for conflict at those crossings. And you don't want that. On the good side, the other thing we were able to do was Representative Patterson passed a bill that is $300 million towards off system, so city and county roadways, at grade crossings to be elevated to grade separated crossings. Now, we're a little behind the mark out here, but we've had some good discussion, particularly on the county level. about looking at some of those roads. One of the things we really need in Midland County is more grade separated rail crossings. At least one somewhere. That would be a huge improvement. And I think, well, like I said, we're a little ways out on that, but hopefully that's something we can get to there again. Again, efficiency, reducing crashes. Next slide. I should also mention that one of the things we worked on during the session, we weren't successful about, although I don't like to talk about bad things. We didn't get the additional 250 million for the county road grant program. Worked on that a lot. We got it in both baseline bills, but we couldn't get it in the conference. So we'll be working again on that again. But again, more funding is always better. Most recently, we had our program with our autonomous trucks. And we had Aurora here as well as Kodiak. And you can see a little bit of their mapping out here. We are really, really excited about that. I know if you read some of the comments that were posted on Facebook stories, things like that. Maybe there's some folks that aren't really excited about that. But when you look at their safety record, way better. They're reducing crashes literally over human drivers. They are operating in the energy sector out doing sand deliveries for Atlas. In some limited areas there in the Delaware Basin, that seems to be going really well. But you see most of their maps here are really more long haul. You're looking at Dallas to Phoenix, Dallas to El Paso, those sorts of things. Kodiak has put a facility, it's a maintenance facility today in Odessa. I wouldn't be surprised if Aurora doesn't look at something out here too. And where I think that is also important to us from an economic development perspective, we have a hard time finding truckers as it is today out here operating in our area. I think those maintenance facilities ultimately become logistics hubs for things moving in from Dallas and El Paso and some loads being dropped off out here, FedEx, Werner, things like that, that are along those interstate lines. And I think that helps here in allowing cargo movement in and out over those primary corridors. But it's not generally oil field traffic, but other things. And so again, goes back to being that logistics hub. And I think ultimately in the long term, if you want to look, we've had people in the past look at other types of distribution facilities, coal facilities, things of that nature. Having those trucks that are operating along those primary lines that would impact those operations that could go 18 hours straight without stopping, particularly in the example of cold storage, are a game changer for making us a very viable place for those operations and helping us deal with some lack of available trucking. So again, I realize there's a lot of nervousness on that, but I think we're in a really good place with that as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Last slide. You can see there the I-14, I-27, I-20, I-10. Really, all of this is about putting us at a hub. And I know sometimes we were at the, what was that, the Horse Plains last week. And I heard somebody that was economic development, a smaller community, talking about, oh, this is game changer, game changer. It's going to bring all this opportunity. And I don't want to think, but if I'm being negative, I'll say what I'm about to say. It's not going to be a game changer for them. There are communities along interstates that have grown and prospered. There are ones that have died and blown away. The road itself doesn't do that, but it is a component. It is a tool. It is a tool in Sarah's wheelhouse or her toolbox of things. And there are a lot of things that go into that. So what we're trying to do is provide more tools for her to be successful in the economic development efforts that you're undertaking. But again, it's just a tool, one tool. But if we can make things a little bit more efficient, we can reduce those costs associated with it. I think it's a really good tool to have. And with that, I'm not gonna worry about the rest of the slides. I'm just gonna say thank you. We appreciate your support. It's been a great partnership. Your leveraging program has been one of the greatest investments in the Permian Basin that there has been over the years. So thank you.
I would also like to highlight, just in the last couple of budget cycles, and maybe dollars, Sarah told me where these hit, but there $1 million of investment in the Todd Drive development, roughly $1 million in the the 158 development over there is bringing in close to $32 million from tech stock. So if you think about a $16 million annual budgeted revenue, we've brought in, just with those $2 million investments, you've doubled the revenue that you brought in from sales tax. That's incredible, and that needs to be something that we highlight. I don't think this community is really aware of that, and so doubling your revenue with those two investments, I think we need to be talking about it far and wide.
When we talked about this a little bit before you got here, but like on Route 250, that's speeding it up from 15 and 20 years. Yeah, so. Have money.
Thank you, Hank. Is there any public comment? Any questions or discussion from the board?
Sorry it took so long.
All right, okay. Thank you. Okay, at this time, presentation from the Midland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce on their micro grant program. Savannah Morales, CEO of the Midland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, will give a presentation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Savannah Morales. I'm with the Midland Hispanic Chamber. I want to give an impact report on the micro grant that y'all have recently helped us with. If we can go to the next slide, please. So the purpose of this grant is to reward $1,000 to a local business here in Midland. But doing that, no longer do we just give them $1,000. We give them support through helping them buy equipment, helping them with marketing, staffing, and even operations. In order to do that, afterwards, they receive the grant, we also give them follow-up with how to use the funds properly. Is that a place where you should purchase your equipment from? We push for them to purchase here locally and not purchase out of state. We also help them with, if it's operations, depending on how they use the money, how they can use their money towards operations, how can we extend this $1,000? If it's equipment, how would that equipment help you? Do you need to use your equipment? Maybe purchase a different one than what you're wanting to purchase? And doing that as well, we don't give them the funds unless we have an invoice that they have paid, and then we write out a check. Or if they don't have those funds, what we do is they come to our office and we purchase it directly with them there. So we make sure that the money does not get used as vacations or personal uses. We make sure that this funds goes directly to business purposes. If we can go to the next slide, please. So an impact at a glance. We have awarded 10+ businesses so far, and thank you guys for that. They have used their investments in equipment, marketing, uniforms. Dozen employees have been impacted by this. For example, it's Tidy Up. They have purchased uniforms for their employees, so they look very more professional as they're doing business here in our city. We have also made sure that the local dollars stay in Midland. If we can go to the next slide. So this is Tidy Up Business. This is the one we were talking about, that they purchased their uniforms, so they look very sharp. So when they go out and do business here in Midland, Texas, they look very nice and clean in their professional uniforms. We can go to the next slide, please. This is another business spotlight. This is the micro grant businesses, 1, 2, about 3 of them. They purchased equipment. Crumb Micro Bakery, which is in the mall. They purchased new equipment to meet the higher demands in sales. Crystal Rodriguez with photography. She purchases lens in order to do, she does a lot, if y'all don't know her, a lot of professional headshots here in our local area. And we have Sanchez Photography as well. They use their grant across uniforms, marketing as well, and what else did they use? And a lens. So they were able to stretch that $1,000 to help them with their business as well. We can go to the next, please. Community impact and benefits. It supported jobs. It retained dozens of employees. Business growth equals increased revenue and expansion. Local reinvestment keeps our dollars here in Midland. Entrepreneurship builds a stronger small business in our community. If we can go to the next slide, please. And accountability. Let me see. I didn't see that word right there. And support. All recipients submit paid invoices. Our vendors, we pay them directly. The chamber provides pre and post award check-ins, and also mentorship is offered with this micro grant. If we can please go to the next slide. So our future vision for this micro grant, we hope to continue getting this funds from MDC and the city of Midland, is to continue awarding 12 businesses per year. strengthen our partnership with MDC to expand the program reach. And our goal is to reach larger pools of grants, more jobs, and a stronger economy. If we can please go to the next slide. So every $1,000 grant makes a real change measured here, difference in Midland. And we want to thank you for your partnership for the City of Midland and DC for helping us. We also have a video from one of our micro grant winners.
I don't think the video link
Oh, it
came
won't-
across and we can't
Oh,
use PowerPoint.
Okay, well, she just wanted to thank y'all for believing in local businesses. And because of y'all's $1,000, she was able to buy more supplies. She was able to use it for marketing and she was able to get her business out there more. So she just said a thank you to MDC and the City of Midland and MHCC for believing in local businesses here and putting the money back into local businesses. Do we have any questions?
I can email the video to the.
Perfect, thank you.
So how do people apply for this?
Yeah, so we have our website, and so it is open, you don't have to be a member of the chamber, it's open to everyone that applies. You go on our website, you submit application, it asks you, how will you use the funds? How much revenue do you pull in per year? How many employees you have, your company, and you have to be in business in Midland, Texas, and you have to be in business more than 6 months.
And I was curious, how do you market it? How do businesses go and find this?
Well, we have our Café con Pan every month and we also market it on our social media platforms and we're always telling our all these networks we go to, everywhere we go to, hey guys, we have a micro grant. We actually have a trunk or treat that our ambassadors are going to do. And in order for you to have your trunk or treats, you'll be entered into the micro grant. They'll have to fill out all the information as well. So we'll be reaching out to businesses past just our social media platform. We're trying to find more creative ways. We're always emailing people, hey, you have a business, you should apply. Apply for the micro grant, it's sponsored by. We also have our check that has City of Midland and MPC and MHCC on there when we present it as well. But we market across social media, basically in word of mouth right now. So this year we're trying to find out how can we push it more where more people can know that they have this opportunity for them.
So have you, I guess you yourself, just seen the uptick of just the energy for it? Plus, I think you said y'all gave away 10.
Yes, we have 10, we have 2 waiting to get a check written out, but they are just recent grant winners, so they haven't turned an invoice or anything in, so we have a total of 12 already, but we just don't write out the check or consider them fully until we give them the funds.
Well, I think the uptick, so it, like in applications, is this a season where is it something that you do ahead of time or you just grant it as you get it, so give you find it?
No, we, so as we pay for micro grants, they come in monthly. We have every Café con Pan, we advertise it. And as soon as we notice that we have our Café con Pans, we have more entry. Because we have people from the community that attends our networking events and they'll hear about it because they didn't know. Or when the winners showcase their pictures on their social media platform. And we meet every 3rd Thursday of the month with our economic development. This is Sarah. She is the chair of the Board of Development. And so we meet together, we pick the winners from there because we look at, well, how would this actually help them? Their revenue's pretty high. I think we probably need to help here more. We go across seeing who can use it basically that much. Because every participant is different and the revenues are different and their categories and industries are different. So, and we also have, is there a deadline? And if there's a deadline, we'll choose that person first if they meet the criteria. And then we have to call them as well because we also need to make sure they just don't have an address in Midland, that their business is actually in Midland. So we do our research on that as well. Yes.
They don't get it, they can always be considered again the fall.
How many applications are you getting?
Gosh, let's see.
It fluctuates.
Yeah.
Say between 2 and 3 a month.
2 or 3 a month. We've had, that's why we're doing this trunk or treat with our local businesses. We're hoping that we can get some more. We actually have about 30 people who have applied this fiscal year, 30 people who have applied. So with this trunk or treat, we're reaching out to the business and saying, hey, if you come and host the trunk or treat with us, you have an opportunity to be entered into the micro grant, to receive a micro grant. we're trying to get creative on ways we can showcase it. Because like I say, it's not just for MHCC members, it's for any local business here in Midland, Texas. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank y'all.
Any further public comment, question from the board? Thank you. Item 6, presentation from Mode Communications on the Midland Development Corporation's advertising campaign.
I think we're gonna stand on both sides of the screen, but thank you very much for having us today. We thought it important, and as Sarah emphasized, that we give y'all a mid-year report on how the campaign is going. We're about a little more than halfway through on the marketing campaign that y'all approved early this year, or that we started early this year. And so what we want to do is honor the 15 minutes that Sarah gave us. So this is going to be a very numbers focused campaign, but we also want to make sure we leave time for questions at the next slide. So just a quick reminder about the objectives. We rallied around in discussions with y'all 5 principal objectives: building community awareness, driving engagement, especially on social platforms, future-proofing this concept that is more the long game than the short game, attract business and talent, and enhance social and media presence. Those were our 5 objectives. Next slide. So we started this process, as we do most processes, with a survey. So we offered people a free cup of coffee at Starbucks if they took advantage of completing our survey. Now, as I shared with Sarah, we had like over 3,000 people, emails that were completing this survey. And when we looked at them very, very closely, we saw that some of the names just didn't quite line up. Some of the handles on the emails didn't quite line up. And we found that we got about, I would say, 2,600 spam emails. People really wanted a cup of coffee. Is the way. But once we filtered through all those and tried to determine who's legitimate and who's not, there were really about 300 legitimate survey results that we had received. This is how they break down from an age demo perspective. 54 and under, about 67%, 55 and over, were about 26%. And that's really important. That under 54 is the group a lot of our activities are focused on. From a question that said, where do you get your news? And again, this is news. 67% said TV, 26% said social, 19% said the MRT. Of all of these folks, 89% said they were aware of the spaceport. 86% said the spaceport is good for the local economy. And 86% said they support investment in the spaceport. Now, if those numbers are right, why do you need people like us, right? I mean, no, y'all got it covered. Well, what we believe is the people who took advantage of completing the survey, they didn't want the cup of coffee. They just knew about the spaceport and they were willing to weigh in on the spaceport. So it's our conclusion that most of these people knew about it, liked it, and wanted to comment on it and get a cup of coffee. So we took that information anyway and assumed that very few people, broadly speaking, knew about the Midland International Air and Spaceport, because our job was to raise awareness. So with that, we want to talk about what we did to raise awareness. Go ahead, Paige. This was going to be a video, so we'll skip over that.
Yeah, so our approach on getting the word out was a multi-platform approach. You see, well, you guys we all live with multi-screen, different touch points. And so that very much was our approach. The survey backed up, some of the platforms. For broad reach, we've engaged broadcast television, including some local news, but also some live sports programming. So far, again, 7 months in, through the buys that we've placed, we've delivered about 682,000 impressions, 197 spots. More importantly, we've reached about 85%. This would be of the TV viewing area, so that which includes Midland, the city of Midland, Midland County. But so again, not only is the message being delivered here to Midlanders, which is our main focus, but when you use a broadcast TV medium, you're also reaching out regional. Next slide. So again, we talked about using traditional mediums like television. Also, you've seen the outdoor signs all around the city of Midland. Those are traditional mediums. We've used a little bit of actual billboard inventory. But the other way we're reaching people is through internet connected devices. This is primarily cell phones, but it includes tablets, it includes laptops, it includes the big screens. You know, this football kicked off here over the last few weeks. Here's how I'm watching football. I'm watching my main screen with my phone in my hand and my laptop and my iPad. So a lot of people, so we're making sure we're reaching people where they're at. And each one of those mediums reaches people in a different way. So when we refer to digital media here, we're referencing mostly internet connected devices. We've delivered 927,000 impressions. Those are the number of ads when it comes to digital media. That's resulted in over 4,000 engagements. And conversions here for us here has been primarily getting people over to the website and getting them to give us an email, which John will talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. Next slide. Social media is also a big part of what we're doing. Again, just wanting to reach people, multiple touch points and multiple ways that they consume media. So far, we've delivered over 1 million impressions. Social media, very much about engagement, right? You see here 23,000 engagements. That includes anywhere from people liking or commenting on a post, clicking on a video. So the advertisements here, the messaging has been delivered via video segments and via what we graphical display. And again, you see the number of conversions here as well, a lot higher, just because the platform lends itself more to that. Next slide. Again, just wanting to reach people and also just for traditional, combining a traditional medium with a digital medium, and for credibility, right? So local news sources are still very credible. The MRT is still very credible. And so a small portion of the campaign touches on that. Almost 500,000 impressions delivered. A really good engagement rate with this platform, and a good level of conversions. Next slide. Again, total media so far for the campaign halfway through, about 3 million impressions, 28,000 engagement opportunities, and about 1,600 conversions. You know, what we're seeing here is that we're effectively, reaching awareness. Midlanders are more aware of the spaceport and more importantly, the things that are going on in the spaceports, the companies associated with the spaceport. I think very much we're heading in the right direction where the spaceport is not just the name on the airport, right? There are things going on, right? So I think broadly people are starting to understand even the tagline, the future is now, because the way and the pace of the media that we've released is taking people in that direction. And in total, I estimate when you look at everything combined, a person who has seen an ad has been touched about 3 to 5 times, again in different ways. And again, if you might experience the campaign initially by just driving around town, then you can make a connection when you see the ad, in the live sports programming, or when you see something on social media. So I think we're doing a good job here at Midway Point. All the numbers are indicating, some great engagement, and I'll let John kind of talk a little bit more about that.
You know, and I would say these two numbers are the critical ones. Engagement means somebody took some action. They liked or they shared or something like that, primarily on social, but on other platforms as well. Conversions means we got them to the location we wanted to get them to, whether it's a survey we wanted them to complete, or whether it's the website we want them to go to. These folks are kind of the die-hard interested. We're happy to have those. These folks are answering the question of awareness. They're saying, yeah, this is interesting to me, so I'm gonna like, or I'm gonna share, or I'm gonna do something like that. This number is a big number, and it's an important number for this campaign. Going into the second half of this program that y'all have us doing on your behalf, we're focused on this number, on moving these folks from here to here. Can we have the next slide? So a few results that are really important. We have about 1,800 visitors to the website a month. That's a really good number as well. We've collected about 400, a little over 1,400, excuse me, email addresses. Now, we're going through this process with Sarah to cull those to see how many people the MDC has in their database already versus the people whose email addresses we've collected. But when someone gives you their email address, that's a win. That's a really big win. And we didn't trick them into doing it. We didn't use clickbait or anything. These are people who are giving us email addresses through lead gen. When they're coming to the website, they're saying, yeah, keep me informed about more that you're doing. These are people who were excited to see a fighter jet driving down Wall Street, being delivered to the Midland International Air and Spaceport. Thank you, Lucy, for that one. These are those people. They think this is an exciting way to go. This number is really important too, because when people tap something or there's a mention of the Midland Development Corporation or the Midland International Air and Spaceport, they're making a comment, and these mentions that we have been overwhelmingly positive. Now, in our business, we do a lot of what we call social listening. And while when you listen to social, you're likely to slit your wrist if you lean toward the bad stuff, because our company, your company, everybody gets people who want to stay in that angry space, but overall and overwhelmingly so, there are nothing but good things, and our sentiment analysis tells us that there is good sentiment about the Midland Development Corporation and specifically the spaceport.
Yeah, and so one key point I want to hit, this is what I would commonly use a word term here, earned media. So these are mentions from TV stations, journalism outlets, and that's what that is. For comparison, same time period last year was 7. So when the media is on its own picking up the different stories, which is amplifying the work that we're doing, and again adds credibility, a ton of credibility to it. And then not only they're looking, again, overwhelmingly taking a positive approach to what they're covering. So it's not a critical. Matter of fact, we didn't find any critical mentions when we were monitoring the media outlets.
And I would highlight 2 more things. The first one is whenever we use the expression jobs, off the charts engagement. Whenever we say aerospace jobs or jobs, whenever we talked about AST bringing more jobs, we see a big increase in engagement. The other thing I would say is there are some people out there in the world who are talking about Midland, Texas and the spaceport. The least of which is the consultant that the MDC uses, Oscar. The most popular video we've run in the community as part of this awareness campaign has been the one where Oscar talks about the history of ports. And some of you may have seen it where he talks about seaports and after World War II, airports, and the future being spaceports. That one video gets a lot of shares, it gets a lot of likes because he very articulately in 30 seconds gives you a history lesson on why the Midland International Air and Spaceport is important. And it's those kinds of things that cause people to do this or cause people to do that. It's those kinds of kind of quick narratives and stories that we can tell that cause people to feel really good about the Midland International Air and Spaceport. Overall, I think we're moving in the right direction. I was about to say killing it, but marketing people never want to get ahead of their skis. But I do think we're coming close to killing it with some of these things. Can we go to the next slide? So looking ahead, this is about conversions. And as I mentioned, the next 6 months of the campaign and beyond needs to be about conversions. Now, some of these are ideas. Some of them we're already starting to talk about a little bit with the team at the MDC. But we think the MDC needs to take advantage of telling its story, as the mayor mentioned. There are a lot of stories to tell, and they're all good. They are all good stories. And so we think we already have this 1,400 that we're going to constantly pepper with information because they've given us permission to. But we'd love to see a meeting of former MDC chairs just to share with them the story. We'd love to see Basin PBS do a 1-question episode on space, and we think that's close to happening. We have gotten approval. Midland Magazine is going to do an article about space in their next edition. We'd love to see a state of space conference with the Midland Chamber of Commerce because that's a big deal. We are already working on a quarterly newsletter on your behalf that we can again send to these 1,400 folks. We'd love an aerospace job fair because jobs trigger people, and we've seen that. So we'd love some kind of aerospace job fair, and we still think kids are important, and so we'd love to see a spaceport kids kind of maybe summer camp or college. So again, these are just our ideas. They are not owned by anybody else. We have not, we're not saying all of these are done. Some of them are good, some of them not so good, but we'd love to organize all of these in the next 12 months or so as we look ahead. But also as we look ahead, we know we're going to continue to do television. We know we're going to continue to do social because those are things that are carrying the ball right now for us. So we're really excited about the way the campaign has gone to date, and we look forward to reporting back sometime in January.
Just want to bring in this full circle, these ideas here that you see going forward. These are all, again, traditional medium focused or community engagement focused, but they are also they create the content for the digital platforms. So while you don't see the digital platforms broken out here, again, it works together. The what I call tradigital approach, combining traditional mediums and formats with digital really is what gives this campaign the best lift possible.
Because there is a good story to tell. If we had no story to tell, this would be a tough gig. but we have some really good stories to tell. And with that, we can go to the next slide, just as a reminder of, or maybe the next, there we just a reminder, these are the folks on our team. We always use Tatum and Kate as advisors, or Tatum specifically. Any press related things we do, press events, Tatum is just so good at all of that stuff. But this has been a really good team kind of guiding and shaping the campaign. And I think part of the reason for the campaign's success so far. So with that, I'm happy to, Jose and I are happy to take any questions or comments or threats.
All the threats that way.
I guess on the numbers for the age breakdown, as far as I don't remember that under 30 or 40, like is a steep decline from one group to the other.
Yes.
Let me go back to slide
I think it was over 55.
2 or 3. It's over 55 and under 55.
Okay, so the under was mighty low.
67, 54%, 54 under, 67% of the respondents.
Oh.
But if I can add a little bit to that, because again, watching our interaction, especially across the social media channels. If we start slicing that data up, the core group is people 25, 54 that is engaging with that. So who is this resonating with? And then if you go in a little bit, you focus in a little bit more, you're right in the middle, about 35-ish plus 35 to 44 is where a majority of the engagement is. So that's good. And I think that lines up with our population.
The working consumer is who this is all talking to, and that's who you want. They're typically voting consumers, they're all of those things. So this is hitting that target group really squarely. Great question.
So with the 1,400 email, the people that are engaging on social media, are you finding that the majority is local residents versus other people looking at Midland as a potential landing spot?
That's a great question. On LinkedIn, it's the latter. On all the other platforms, it's pretty isolated to the region for the most part. But on LinkedIn, that's where we get all the national folks. I think you guys may be aware, and I didn't bring them with me, I forgot, but there is a really small mention of Midland in National Geographic September issue. And it's talking about space, right? Now, we'd love to say we made that happen. We did not. We would love to say it. But what it does say is that Midland's on the map of this space conversation. If publications like National Geo or Texas Monthly, even the New York Times, who suggested there might be a story somewhere at some time about space and Midland, all of those things are putting Midland on this global map that's just amazing. And as Oscar always says, this is $1 trillion economy that is being built right now. And for Midland to have even a sliver of that is amazing. And we're definitely going to have a sliver of it, I'm convinced. We already do, especially with companies like AST. Other questions? Well, thank y'all very much for the opportunity. We love doing this stuff and we love being a part of this project. And we'll keep going forward as we continue moving forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comment? All right, moving on. Discuss, consider, and take action on the proposed adoption of the incentive matrix and guidelines for evaluating and administrating future economic development project of Midland Development Corporation. Guidelines are informed by economic, well, best practices and tailored for Midland. These guidelines will add clarity and organizational efficiency. Based on board input given on July 8th, an additional tier has been added to accommodate for smaller businesses. Do we have any public comment? Is there any further discussion from the board? I'll call for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 8. Resolution authorizing the execution of economic development agreement with Motran Alliance, Inc. And authorizing payment for said agreement. This agreement commits $142,500 to Motran for fiscal year 2026 to secure additional infrastructure funding for the area and aggressively pursue the development and improvement of transportation corridors connecting Midland with the domestic and international markets. The 2026 amount is the same as the 2025 and 2024 requests. The MDC has been supporting Motran through similar agreements since 2010. Do we have any public comment? Any discussion from the board?
Looking at the budget that's included here, it was also in the 22-23. So how long have we been at this 142,500 amount?
Believe it has been 7 years. 7 or 8. It hasn't changed, so.
And has Odessa already approved their portion for this year?
Any further questions, comments? I'll call for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second,
I'll say,
have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Resolution authorizing the execution of a consultant service agreement with the Perryman Group in the amount not to exceed $80,000 for the production of certain economic indices and reports regarding the city of Midland, Texas, and the Permian Basin. Continues the agreement initiated in 2020 for the Perryman Group to provide monthly economic indices and reports. These reports are among the most requested and utilized data from the MDC from community members and site selectors. The annual amount has remained unchanged since 2020. Is there any public comment? Any discussion from the board? I'll call for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Resolution authorizing the execution of amendment to that certain economic development agreement entered into on April 22nd, 2025 between the Midland Development Corporation and AST and Science LLC. This item and item number 11 work in tandem to expand AST's lease at 2908 Enterprise Lane to include the entire facility. The previous lease area was 86% of the facility. The current leased area is 100% of the facility. Monthly lease will increase to correspond with the additional lease square footage. As AST certifies that the requirements of the economic development agreement have been met and maintained, the lease payments will be reimbursed. Do we have any public comment? Any discussion from the board?
So how many jobs now does AST there approximately?
Associated with this agreement, it's 50 for this facility, but in total it is just under 300.
Okay. And we've had an agreement with AST since what year?
2019.
Any further discussion? I'll call for a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution authorizing the execution of amendment to that certain commercial lease agreement entered into on April 22nd, 2025 between the Midland Development Corporation and AST and Science LLC regarding that certain facility at the address of 2908 Enterprise Lane, located at the Midland International Air and Space Port. This item works in tandem with item 10 to expand AST's lease agreement at 2908 Enterprise Lane to include the entire facility. The previous leased area was 86% of the facility. The current leased area is 100% of the facility. Monthly lease will increase to correspond with the additional lease square footage as AST certifies that the requirement of the economic development agreement have been met and maintained. The lease payments will be reimbursed. Do we have a public comment? Hearing none, any discussion from the board? As y'all recall, this is removing the chambers right of the Mac building, right, freeing up that space. So I'll call for a motion for approval.
I'll make this.
Second,
Second.
with a motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 12, presentation of the July 2025 Economic Development Activity Report from the Midland Development Corporation Executive Director. Sarah, you're up.
Good morning, board. On the income statement for July, I'd like to draw your attention to line item 53909, prior year committed incentives. That 2.1 million is the first disbursement to Costco for infrastructure reimbursement associated with the new store. The first milestone for receiving that disbursement was receiving a certificate of occupancy from the city and opening the store to the public, both of which were achieved in July. So the first tranche of funds was released to them. There will be 2 additional equal tranches made in 2 successive years if the additional obligations are met, which include job creation and retention. Aside from that, in terms of sales tax revenues, they are flat to slightly down year over year compared to last fiscal year. However, they are still running about 20% above budget. Projected revenues based on actual to date is probably going to be a little above 16 million for the fiscal year. There is 1 month remaining in this fiscal year. Those are the comments I have on the financial statements. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer. Regarding economic development activity, MDC staff was at Plant Hall earlier in August. That was a really great crowd, good turnout, got to talk to a lot of people there in person about the spaceport and aerospace activities. It's always fun to see the members of the public and the kids out there, so we're excited to be at that event. Looking forward, Love Midland will be having a large volunteer focused event, and they offer the MDC some free booths and table space, so we will be there. Just meeting members of the public, giving out a few stickers and sharing some additional information about MDC and spaceport, so please come by there. Can you remind me of the date for that, please, Saray?
I think it's October 4th.
Yes, on a Saturday, the first Saturday of October. That's the update I have.
Any questions? How much? Okay, it is now 10:14. Excuse me, 11:14. And at this time, the board will retire to executive session. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.101, the board of directors will hold an executive session, which is closed to the public, to discuss the following matters if permitted under the following Texas Government Code section. Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property. Discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Section 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. Discuss business prospects the Midland Development Corporation seeks to have, locate, stay, or expand in and near the city of Midland. And discuss public incentives, discuss contract compliance on part of the